Alrighty.
Okay.
Alright. How's it going, y'all? The VODcast crew are back for another episode, and today I've got with me Elijah.
Hello.
There he is.
That's it.
And Danzig.
Alright. I'm here.
Whoop.
So we're all just doing Matthew McConaughey tonight. Alrighty.
Look up at the stars. They give us so much information. That was terrible. I'm sorry.
And as always, we're going to start with a bit of a movie roundup, talking about a movie that we've seen in the last little while or something we just want to talk about.
Yes.
So I guess I'll start us off, and I'm going to talk about Sonic the damn Hedgehog.
Oh God.
Jim
Off to a hell of a
Carrey
start.
can get it. Jim Carrey can get it, my dude.
Well, I guess we've been hearing a lot about Jim Carrey recently from you. Different
He
roles.
has returned to his peak. I'm just like on a Jim Carrey roll. Eternal Sunshine and now this, but like
Two equally fascinating films.
he has returned to his peak in Sonic the damn Hedgehog. And I've forgotten the guy's name. Is it Ben Schwartz?
Yes.
Yes.
Wait,
he is
which
great
one?
in it. Ben Schwartz is
Sonic.
the voice actor.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, I thought you were talking about the tall...
The voice actor of
handsome
Leonardo
guy.
in the new TMNT, or relatively new TMNT as well. He
Is
likes
he?
blue people. Yeah.
Oh.
That is an amazing fun fact.
He likes characters involving blue. And yeah, he's great in it. He gets the like energy of Sonic as well. Like he knows what he needs to do to bring that character to life, and it's great. And I'm gonna get his name wrong because there's like a million Jameses in Hollywood. Is it James Marsden?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's in 27
He's
dresses.
so funny. He's
I love him.
the comedic timing with a creature that doesn't exist is so good.
Right.
He's acting to nothing and he still gets it perfect. It is a wonderful movie.
Isn't this the second time he's been in a movie with a talking animal that he has to take a road trip with? Because he was in Hop, right?
Oh yeah, he was in
I
Hop.
love
Yeah.
Hop. Hop is the best.
forgot
Every
that movie
Easter I watch that
existed.
movie.
But yes, I don't want to. I'm about to say I don't want to spoil Sonic the Hedgehog, but I don't
Oh.
because I want people to be able to experience it. It's great.
I'm fascinated by the positivity in this review.
Yeah, just because of your review, I'm going to watch it.
I was going
always
into it
was, but
fully
I
expecting to
haven't.
hate it. Like, I did not expect to enjoy it. It's a video game movie and it's Sonic. I didn't, and after the crap with the first trailer, I was like, okay, this is going to be an awful movie. But everyone
disgusting.
nails their role and their comedic timing is great and it's so well written. It's beautiful. There's some points where you're a bit like, oh, this is a yikes, but like, not in an awful way. It's just kind of a 90s cringe kind of vibe,
Okay.
which I guess is Jim Carrey's wheelhouse.
I love Jim Carrey.
Sounds about right. Well, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, I guess it's good that he's in classic form. Obviously, there are lots of fans of his that have been waiting for something which has that Ace Ventura improv style.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
right here. Don't.
And what about you guys? What movies have you been watching recently?
Danzig?
Oh, myself and I have been watching. We watched. I watched. Sorry, I got a bit lost there in translation. But imagine if I watched Lost in Translation. That'd have been awesome. But
Yeah,
Perfect segue.
yeah, no. But I watched The Descent and The Terminal,
Ooh, nice.
which
Yeah.
the Terminal.
We haven't talked about The Descent yet.
Yeah, actually, you haven't done. That was interesting. I really liked the blood work in that. The blood work was insane.
It's a very... Yeah, from that standpoint, with all the gore, it's a very intense movie. It's just...
Oh yeah.
I reckon it's a movie that people will either get or they won't get just
Yeah,
because of
totally.
how it's kind of grim. It's got a little bit of a weird pace to it. So
Yeah, totally. Like my dad didn't really like it.
yeah, I can imagine
Yeah,
some
my
people
dad was
not
like,
liking it.
like legit. I went to him and I said, "Have you ever seen The Descent?" And he goes, oh yeah, I saw that movie, you know, I didn't really like it, it's stuck in a cave, who cares, you know? And then I was like, alright. He's like, yeah, I don't really like it, you can't really see anything. And then I was like, oh, you can see some stuff. And he's like, nah. And then, but yeah, I really liked, there was some good lighting techniques I really liked in there too.
Definitely.
It was different.
In the behind the scenes, you can see that it's all a set that they've built. The majority, like 99% of the caves are on sets that they've designed.
Awesome.
I know, and the way that they light them is really interesting. You can see all of these different tactics they're using. And
Yeah, totally.
it's kind of weird that in the movie it manages to look kind of realistic, so they never overlight something. I really hate when movies are in dark places and you're like, how the fuck can we see their entire face? They're meant to be in pitch black. They don't do that in The
Yeah.
Descent.
Just take
Yeah,
the Game of
totally.
Thrones Season 8 approach and just don't light anything and have it be a
Just
pitch black battle
Show
scene.
Jack all, yeah. But with a horror movie, it makes sense that it's kind of scary when there are things that you don't know or that you don't see. I think that works well for the movie.
Yeah, right. There was one scene where like she was in the dark, she lights up a flare, and it's like a red beam of light, and you see all like the I don't know the word for it though, like all the stuff in the air like go past her. It was really well lit. I was like, wow, that is a great shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Oh,
And also,
the damn
Yeah, sorry.
The ending was insane.
yeah, that's crazy.
That
It
is
builds
crazy.
up so much hype, and I think that's especially one of the things that make people either jump off the wagon or just ride it the
Or
whole
punch
way.
the TV. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's when I was actually watching it with some friends a couple of months ago. I'd seen the movie by myself and I really vibed to it. And then later I said, "Oh, we have to watch this set. It's really good." And I watched it the second time, didn't like it as much. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then everyone around me was like, "Bro, can you explain that ending? Like, I don't know how to feel about that."
Totally.
And I ran them through the thematic reasons for why it makes sense, and they were like, sure. So, but it's an enjoyable movie because I mean, for me it was because it's quite grim, but also the dynamic between all of the characters really gels quite well, I think, in the first act.
Yeah, it was different. It was really cool. There was some like things where I was like, oh, that's hardcore. It was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I saw that you gave it a 3.5. So like,
Yeah, 3.5.
it's
Yeah.
pretty. So it was pretty good, not
Yeah, it was pretty-
amazing. That sort
It
of
was
thing.
pretty good. There were better ones out there, but
Definitely. Yeah.
that's
Hot
pretty
take.
good. Yeah.
But then the terminal is on the opposite end of that, I
Oh
guess.
god damn!
Bruh.
That's a story for another time. I can go on about that. That was insane.
Bro.
That was a wild journey.
It's such a good movie. It's insane how it's this charming comedy, like a romantic comedy story, but it's also directed by Steven Spielberg. And it
Yeah.
has craft for days. It is so well shot. Structurally, it's so good. The music is incredible. I've got that soundtrack on my phone, and I'll listen to it all the
John
time.
Williams.
John
As
Williams,
soon as the
man.
movie finished, I hit up my phone just to like get the soundtrack.
good.
Boom, play it right now. Otherwise, I'll like blow
Yeah.
my
Fucking
mind
John
out.
Williams.
I swear to you, like, anyone listening, look up the soundtrack for The Terminal. The song The Tale of Victor Navorsky. If you're driving to work or school or you're on a bus, play that song. You will have the funniest time just looking at people walking around. It is great.
It's great, yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
It's
It
I
is
amazing.
love
good fun.
everything John Williams. He's such a good composer.
Yeah, I could for days and days talk about John Williams because I guess the two people who always come up in the conversation of the best composers are him and Hans Zimmer.
Yeah,
And I understand
Oh,
why
for
that's the case
sure.
for sure, but there's something that John Williams has, which basically Hans Zimmer creates soundscapes and ambiances. He's integrating music with sound design almost. It's these large waves of orchestral noise. But John Williams makes very specific melodies. You can
Yeah.
hum everything that John Williams does because it's like everything is meant to happen. It's so specific and intentional. And
Yeah.
I don't know how his brain processes it.
Yeah. Yeah, John Williams for me is nostalgia as well because he did Harry Potter, he did Indiana
he's
Jones.
done
Did he do
everything.
Indiana Jones?
He did
Everything
Indiana
big he's
Jones.
He's
done.
done Star Wars. He's done like the movies of my childhood.
Jurassic
And so,
Park.
like,
He did
Superman.
compose the
Hear
best
his
song
music,
in the
I
world.
get-
Or best
Yeah.
Duel
Yeah.
of Fates.
Duel of Fates.
For sure.
Oh yeah, Duel
But-
of Fates. Yeah.
But seriously, Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Superman is one of my favorite themes of all time, hands down. I have such a vivid memory of when I saw Superman for the first time. I was 7 years old, and that incredible opening sequence plays where the letters just shoot out from the screen. You hear that like 70s sound of just whoosh, and you hear the bump bump bump.
Yep.
I felt like the credits went on for so long, and I was like, am I going to be here in a loop for eternity? But I was totally okay with that because it was such an
I'd
amazing...
be okay with that, yeah.
It's incredible. And yeah, I love it. We should do an episode on Superman, like the original thing, because I would fucking love revisiting that movie after so long, because I swear it's not just a nostalgia thing. It's genuinely an amazing movie from the script by Mario Puzo, the guy who wrote The Godfather, by the way, to
Oh wow,
yeah, I know, right?
that's amazing. I did
from
not
that
know that.
to the sound
that's
design.
another fun fact for today's episode.
Crazy. Elijah's
Yeah.
fun facts coming at you going strong, for sure. But if we're to bring it back to the Terminal era, I guess it's such a fucking wholesome ride. Everyone has these really positive character arcs. It's just a movie full of love, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
If you want to put a smile on your face, watch that. And Catch Me If You Can, actually. If you're getting... For 2002, Catch Me If You Can would be the perfect accompaniment.
That was my plan, and then I'm on 2003, and I'm thinking of doing Wrong Turn because I saw it.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Oh my god, I saw it when I was little, and I don't really remember it except for like 2 scenes. And
what's it about?
Oh, this is a really smart horror movie. It's about people on a road trip. Basically, they take the wrong turn. They hit these. This is one of the scenes I remember. They hit these like spike tracks that were just put out on the road. I think they were spike tracks. Yeah, and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" Anyway, they then get like chased by hillbillies that look so scary.
Oh, what the hell? I'm looking at it on Google Images right now. That's weird.
Through
oh
the
my
forest.
god, dude! When did you see this? How old were you?
Oh, I was about 6.
I'm so sorry, dude.
Oh no, my dad showed me the scariest
so
movies
sorry.
when I
Oh,
was little.
that'd scare the bejesus out of me. Those
It
prosthetics.
really was. It really did. That and
Bro,
Nightmare on Elm Street.
there is
both
6
them.
of those movies.
Yeah,
Oh,
they've
the only
shown
good
these
one
out.
is the first one. The only good one is the first one.
based on the
So it's like Saw.
Yes, exactly like Saw.
Saw, but it looks like direct to DVD.
But yeah, this
Straight
movie,
out of the
I
gate.
remember some scenes just going, "Oh my god, this will not. I'm not going to sleep for a while."
Yeah, see it into the
I've
brain.
never been a massive slasher fan.
Really?
But I reckon I'm going to give it a go because this looks like mildly interesting.
Have you seen Scream?
Scream, maybe years ago. Like, there's some deep part of my brain that is
That's
like,
the
I
best
know
one you'll ever
Scream.
see. That's the best slasher film out there. If you don't think so, fight me. No, I'm joking. But-
For sure, I would agree, hands down.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's the best one.
I
No,
still
that-
need to, gotta give that a go.
Oh
Guilty.
my god, we should have a horror episode because that movie is so well made. Oh my god, I can go on for days about that movie being made. Like you will never, you will never see another horror movie made like that before. Like you have never seen. So
Yeah.
I promise you.
It is incredible the way that people talk about Chainsaw Massacre because, as I mentioned a bit before, I've never seen the movie, but because I essentially thought it was just another run-of-the-mill slasher. I thought it was just Friday 13th.
Yeah.
But I started hearing people talk about it, people who had genuine auteur careers. They were talking about it in this really specific way, as if it was like an art movie. And they're talking about the ethereal tone of it and the sense of dread and the way it's shot and all of the intricacies. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
They're talking about this as something much more legit than I thought it was before. So I
Yeah.
really need to see this movie. So
Totally, yeah.
I'm very... unfortunately, I didn't wind up seeing it for the late 70s segment because I've been working through the Criterion channel, which I'm doing. I've got a free trial of, and I want to get through everything as quick as possible. So, but I've been finding some amazing movies on that channel. It is so great. And by the way, Criterion, if you're watching this, why isn't the streaming service available in Australia? Come on, dudes. send us over.
Also,
I
do
want
you
to watch
want to
them.
sponsor this show?
Yeah, sponsor the show because I want to get in on some of those Criterion Blu-rays. I swear.
Yeah.
The
Elijah,
way
I'm
that they're
sorry
able.
when you're going to be editing this. I'm sorry.
No. Believe me, this is going to be so much easier than the first episode because
No,
with
trust me, it's
the.
not.
Just mute
Legit, like
Danzig.
4 people just stomped down my stairs, and like it picked up
Oh.
a tiny little bit of it. I kept seeing the line go like squids a little bit up and down, up and down, up and down. Like not really anything,
Yep.
but in my mind I'm like, I guarantee you that's the loudest sound you'll ever hear because I'm like,
Yeah, he's gonna like pick up every
Yeah,
little
of
movement
course.
that I'm making.
if I
There are
like,
2 ways that I look at that. One way is maybe I need a challenge, and the second way is, or I can just let the audience put up with it because
yeah, you hear that, guys?
What?
Yeah,
I
we
don't know
hate
them
you.
nothing. You hear that?
Deal
That, everyone?
with it.
I don't know you nothing.
Yeah, but it's so loud because I'm trying to be quiet. I'm hoping everyone will be quiet.
Yeah.
But of course,
get that.
Oh, yeah.
everybody's quiet until I start recording.
Of course, they have to be because that's just
Yup.
Murphy's law.
Yeah, it's so true.
Um,
Anyway, go ahead. So, cry.
So that
What's
we're
it
not
called again?
talking about Terminal forever.
Yeah.
No.
Elijah, do you have your
Yeah.
movie pick
For sure. So I have been working through the Criterion channel, which is a streaming service that exists in America, which compiles a lot of the movies that the Criterion have been collecting and restoring. And it is really incredible how they're just able to give people this instant film education because you open up the website and you just see all of these playlists they've made of like every Fellini movie, and they they don't have anything pandering or mainstream. It's just their big advertisement is like Bicycle Thieves, 8.5, Lahane, the Three Colors trilogy. And I'm looking at this just like
I have heard of none
Yeah,
of those.
neither.
But the good part of this
You're not
podcast
alone.
is that all of us can give each other a film education and like teach us, so as this goes on, we're all going to be super buffed out in every single field.
Can't wait.
I was looking at this, and for the first time in a very long time, I just went, I don't know how I'm going to, every single thing here I need to see. Because normally you open it up and you're like, I've seen Mean Girls 100 times, I've seen Superbad 1,000 times, I saw
both.
When Harry Met Sally yesterday. So so the highlights recently, I just finished getting through the 70s, and I saw Stalker, Tarkovsky, which was a very interesting experience. It's this 2-hour, 45-minute movie. It's this Russian film, and it's about a dystopian world in which there is this room in this zone that is all mystical and powerful that grants you wishes. So there's a guy called a Stalker who is able to guide people to this dangerous room and grant people wishes, and we follow him and 2 men as they go there. And it's this existential, metaphysical journey through the psyche of these people with some historical, political commentary on the Gulag, and it's pretty insane. Like I remember hearing everyone talk about it as just this larger than life, like Russian 2001: A Space Odyssey, basically. And watching it, I absolutely understand why it's so important to film history, because the first act of the movie, every single second of it hooked me. There are, I think the average shot length is over a minute, and there are a lot of shots which
Wow.
they just linger, and you just watch people do really minute things that tell you a lot about these people, but more importantly, they just suck you into this hypnotic atmosphere that just it traps you inside. I think it would be quite hard for a lot of people to get into. I don't think that I'd chuck it on with a group of friends. It's not on the same level as The Terminal, because it's got very minimal dialogue, and if you look at the actual premise or the plot of the movie laid out, you'd think it's a movie that's an hour and 20 minutes, but it's because they have all of these pauses and long strides of not nothing, but just settling into the tone. So that's what
Yeah.
makes it so long. And you can't cut that out because you lose the atmosphere, despite the fact that you wouldn't lose any plot or hardly any dialogue. But yeah, I gave that 4.5 on Letterboxd.
Nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
from the way you explain it, it sounds very different and interesting.
It is very different, and it is very, very, very beautifully shot as well. They transition from this sepia tone to a color tone, and the transition is really interesting to look at. The way that the film stock has been preserved by Criterion is really incredible as well, and just the composition and the way it's been handled, the production design is absolutely astounding. There are so many parts of the movie that could just be put on your wallpaper. And yeah, so I definitely would recommend it, not for a fun Saturday night, but if you're feeling more contemplative and you want to watch something like that, then yeah, sure, go
In
for
an
it.
eternal sunshine mood.
Yeah. And on the complete flip side of that, the movie I watched after for the early 70s was American Graffiti, which was not
Yeah.
Criterion. That was a Blu-ray that I
I know
bought.
about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. It follows the final night before heading to college of these four friends in the early 60s, I think. And they're just driving around, having fun, bantering with everyone, going from place to place, trying to get booze, going to dances, getting drinks. Like, they just...
Peak 70s movie.
Yeah, it's a really fun hangout movie, and there are a lot of moments where it's not trying to have, like, underlying subtextual messages or do anything really political, or it's not like Stalker, but it's just a fun movie to get in the headspace of these people, to hang out with them and to vibe with them. And there are so many sequences where we're listening to the music and we see these people having fun, and we're caught up in the moment because it's all edited together really, really fucking well. There were some scenes that are set to music as people will, like, get out of a car and they'll, like, destroy someone's tires or something and then get back in their own car as everyone's shouting them like, "You asshole!" And the way it's set to, like, Johnny Be Good is just, I'm looking at it like, this is perfect. This encapsulates exactly what it must feel like to do this sort of thing. To hang out with friends. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But
No idea.
and also it's directed by George Lucas.
Oh, that's why it got me intrigued in the beginning, because
it's
Star Wars.
I guess the movie goes to show that there was something we didn't get to see from George Lucas. He has so much more to say, and he was never really able to because he only ever made Star Wars movies after Star Wars. And I think that's a real shame, because American Graffiti really proves that he had a knack for understanding people, understanding different atmospheres besides space opera, writing interesting dialogue, interesting scenarios that were completely different from the tone of American. Like, I genuinely feel like he had so much versatility that he didn't show, because the three original movies rather that he made, American Graffiti, Star Wars, and TH-1138, they're all completely different. So what else could he have done?
Yeah, he definitely has a hella good directing range. He just never got to show it.
And that's what I think it's kind of tragic, because everyone always bags out on George Lucas saying, "Oh, he's a hack. He's a terrible writer. He doesn't know how to direct. All he says is faster and more intense, and then he just expects the actors to deliver this terrible dialogue by themselves." But that's because he's involved in this massive franchise, and that's not where his heart lies, I think. Because I heard quite a few separate interviews with Francis Ford Coppola, who is obviously a part of that like Rat Pack from the 70s of them, Brian De Palma, Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg. And Francis Ford Coppola always said that out of all of that group, including the directors of Schindler's List, Taxi Driver, Scarface, out of all of those people, the best director was George Lucas. But the thing that Francis Ford Coppola said was the most tragic part of it was that he'd never been able to show it to the world. Somewhere in George Lucas's head.
The Star Wars episode.
we maybe should have. It didn't come to my head. But Coppola basically said that one day George Lucas is going to make a movie which is better than any movie that group has already made. So basically he said he's going to make a movie better than The Godfather. And it's going to happen, and it's going to blow us all away because it's completely different from everything else he's made. That interview was about 25 years ago, and I don't necessarily know if it's still true, because the man has a family. He just wants to do his own thing, and I totally respect that.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of given up. I think after the prequels and how much crap the Star Wars fandom gave him, I think he just gave up,
Realistically,
which is sad.
how could you not? I guess it'd take a lot of courage. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
say that if I'm thinking about the concept, if it were me, if I had hundreds of millions of dollars, I would probably just use a lot of that money to make my own independent film my own way without restrictions, because I can do it all myself. I know people in the industry because I'm George Lucas. So just do it with complete creative impunity. Forget about the critics. Forget about the studio system. I have the money. Do my own thing.
You just do it, yeah.
But also, I haven't been in that situation. I'm a 19-year-old kid. So maybe, if when I'm 60, I'll realize, oh, that kid was an asshole. I don't know. But yeah, so those are the movies that I've watched recently. I will be continuing to go through the Criterion channel to watch movies. The next movie that I'm going to watch is Playtime by Jacques Tati. I'm very much looking forward to that.
And we are all here with you by knowing nothing about that.
But
yeah.
I will recommend it, and hopefully it'll be awesome, so we can all bask in the glory of classic cinema. We're all learning together.
Yeah.
So that's me.
On the topic of classic cinema,
yes.
Did y'all hear about, or I'll say I heard about, because I remember I told you guys, but this is more for the audience.
Good segue.
The National Treasure movie.
Yes. So
they're doing it. The madmen are actually doing
and
it.
supposedly this time it's for real.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I haven't seen the first one.
Traitor.
We're watching that at some point.
Yeah.
What?
One of these days.
What?
I thought you'd seen it. Dude.
Then why am I trying to then?
Oh,
Come on. Why you mean to me?
They are classic cinema, both of them.
honestly. Nicolas Cage, Sean Bean, John Voight, you got your boy,
I love
Jerry
that guy.
Bruckheimer producing, my favourite auteur producer.
Yeah, right.
You got,
And he's, coming back to produce again.
yeah. Nicolas Cage, now in his prime.
Sure.
Yeah, let's
his
say
Joe
that.
Exotic prime.
Yes, which is a whole other thing. But needless to say, I do genuinely enjoy the first National Treasure. It's obviously not
Oh,
it's not a 10 out of 10,
Brilliant.
but it's a very fun movie. It's got a lot of thrills.
It
It's
is.
pretty funny. It's got like that classic. It's what you'd expect from a 2004 movie that's PG-13.
yeah. Oh, yeah. The second one is almost as good.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that. I haven't seen that in years.
And then they're also doing a TV series for Disney Plus in a young indie style thing, like with a whole new generation. And I don't know if it's going to connect or just have the same title, but they're claiming it's National Treasure, the TV series.
That intrigues me because it could be the worst thing ever produced.
Easily.
But
For sure.
But yet again, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I want to see what this looks like. What does a young National
I
Treasure...
will watch this trash fire.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, maybe I'll see the trailer and then go, all right, I've seen it because I understand the concept, and that's enough. I don't want any involvement with this shit.
I'm imagining Young National Treasure is Magic School Bus without the school bus.
I mean, what confuses me is that they're obviously not going to do the entire crew from the National Treasure movies because they all met pretty much in the first one. The girl that Nicolas Cage forms a romance with, they meet in the first one, and at the beginning of the movie, it's sort of implied that his partner they bring along is just a guy they found in an office randomly. So we're going to be following, if we do follow Nicolas Cage's character and not some other person randomly, it'll just be him and a bunch of other new people. So I guess we'll have his friend, which is meant to appease a certain demographic because it's Disney and they need to be politically correct. And then we'll have another friend who's a bit nerdy.
The token Hispanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the token Hispanic, the token black guy, the nerd, the hot chick, and the main character.
Yeah, so we've got basically there's two comedic relief characters to bounce off each other, the exposition dump and the romantic love interest.
Yeah, perfect.
There you go. And
That's a Disney movie.
there you got your little teen bop right there. And then they go on a couple of adventures. They fight old people who are trying to steal things, and they're trying to be all evil because people over 30 are evil and they want to use money for evil things.
My one request is that the villains of this TV series are Nicolas Cage and Shia LaBeouf.
Dude, I was just going to say, I hope that Nicolas Cage appears not as his character, but as someone who fights his younger self, as a completely unrelated person.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
He's wearing an outfit which makes him discernible as a different. So he says to the director,
Yeah.
people are going to be confused because they know that I'm... What's his character's name?
I wouldn't have
Something
a clue.
Gates. I was about to say Bill Gates.
Yeah, he's Bill Gates.
Sounds about right.
Ben, yeah. People are going to be confused because they know I, Nicolas Cage, and Ben Gates. So I need an outfit, which means that people aren't going to recognize me. How about... And he gets out like a prosthetic nose, some contact lenses.
He gets out the Joe Exotic outfit.
They've been talking about... They're not doing a Joe Exotic show. He is playing Joe Exotic in the National Treasure series. That's what they mean by it. Hell yeah.
That's what it means, yep.
All recent movie news is connected. They were talking about how Tom Cruise and Elon Musk are teaming up for a movie in space.
Great.
That is the National Treasure series, which has Joe Exotic played by Nicolas Cage. It's all connected, I swear. Love it.
There we go. It's all connected.
I'm fucking hyped.
The lizard people.
But yeah, I guess that's the direction that it seems Disney are going. They have all of these shows now through Disney Plus. That adds a lot of avenues for expanding pre-existing universes. They did, well, obviously The Mandalorian, but they did that weird, like, sort of but not really spin-off of High School Musical.
Oh, bro. Okay. I will talk about it later in another episode, but that show is so good.
Oh, really? Okay, I actually watched the
I
first
love
episode.
it so much.
Yeah. It was odd that I wasn't repulsed by it, so maybe I'll get into it, because I did enjoy the first episode.
I sat and I watched the first episode with my whole family, and I sat there like critiquing all these little things as a like every school holidays from when the movie came out until I graduated, I would watch all 3 High School Musical movies. And so I was sitting there nitpicking this episode, but I didn't hate it, so I then continued watching, and now I love it. It's great.
Wow. Interesting. I'll give it a watch, yeah, because they're quite short episodes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, about half an hour a piece, I think.
Yeah. So that could work quite well. I guess after I've done my little community stint,
My guy.
that's something that I can get into that matches the same energy well enough.
Yeah. Well, as a bit of a segue into our main topic, I've got a bit of a game for you guys.
Yes.
I have... Some of you watching may recognize this game. I have stolen it from the Valley Folk, but I'm rolling with it.
He stole it
This is
from
ours now.
Bible Dice, shout out.
You can fuck off, Valley Folk. This is called the movie game. So what, in this context, it's the video game, movie game, but anyway, I will have a video game premise and a movie synopsis mashed together, and I will read it out to you guys, and you have to guess what the mashed up title is.
Oh, okay.
So I sent an example to you guys earlier, so I'll read the example out as kind of a lead-in. So for a movie example, you've got Bruce Willis, a time hitman, is sent back in time to assassinate an unthinkable target. Prince.
Die Hard.
No, the other Bruce Willis movie.
Purple
joking.
Looper.
Lou Purple Rain.
Oh my god.
All right.
So it's that kind of thing.
So we have to not only guess the 2 movies, but we have to guess the title that would be created from that.
The mashup. So
Okay, fuck, this is going to be
guess
difficult.
the movies in
This is going to be
order-
hard.
If you guess it in the way that I read it, so in that example, I read the Looper bit first. So Looper's the first half of the name, and then Prince was at the end.
Right.
So Purple Rain was the second part.
Okay.
That's kind of your like hint into what the combination name is.
Okay. This.
Oh,
All right.
It's going to be hard.
I'm scared.
Alrighty.
Let's go.
I love this one so much. Okay. This addicting puzzle game challenges players to clear lines of falling blocks of varying shapes and run a brothel out of your house to pay off Guido before your parents get home.
Oh, wait, so
What?
hang on. Let me get this right. Is it Jenga and Risky Business?
Not Jenga.
Fucking.
The video
Oh,
game.
that's the one I thought.
Oh, it's a video game. What the hell? Could you repeat the first part?
Oh, it's
Oh,
this
Tetris.
addicting. There we go.
Hold on.
Tetrisky business.
True Lies.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, just joking. True. Okay.
My brain on 3 hours of sleep is killing it.
Yeah, I'm at like 30 because of my. I'm at 30 minutes because of my fan. It's just too loud for me.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, I'm going to save that one for last. I'll do a different one.
Alright,
okay.
hit us.
This free-to-play online shoot-'em-up has taken over the friggin' world with its robust weapon and building mechanics that will come in handy as the flesh-hungry undead have risen and we need to survive until morning in this rural house.
Oh, fuck. I know what the first part is.
So
I don't know what the second...
First part's Fortnite.
Yeah. Oh, what the hell is the second?
Give me a second.
Yeah, you'll probably...
Okay, flesh-eating zombies in a house.
But, like, up until...
movies I've ever watched.
They have to stay in a
So
rural
I'll read
house.
the second half again.
Yeah, okay.
The flesh-hungry undead have risen, and we need to survive until morning in this rural house.
They need to defend themselves in a rural house. Fuck. Fort Night of the Living Dead?
Yep, that's the one.
Hell yeah.
Are you serious?
I literally just got that from thinking Fortnite, so night, what zombie movies begin with night? Let's just say it's Night of the Living Dead.
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
God.
Like, legit, I just thought it'd be too, like, weird to say.
Yeah, it's the same. I
damn it.
I have no fear. I have no fear of embarrassment. Fuck all y'all.
Okay, I've got two that I want to give a go, and I will do this as the last one. So pick either one or two.
A 2.
Two?
One. No,
Alrighty.
two.
1.5.
That's good.
Alrighty. This VR masterpiece combines the genius of Guitar Hero with the badassery that is Star Wars for a dual-wielding experience that sets the user in a Civil War era black and white experience that leads to, fun fact, the rise of the Ku Klux Klan in real life.
What the fuck? What?
Wait, what? Say that second part
What
again.
is this movie?
Yeah, this movie sounds amazing.
That sets the user in a Civil War era black and white experience that leads to the rise of the Ku Klux Klan
I'm tripping.
in real life.
I get what it is.
Mad Max.
I thought you were saying.
No,
I thought you were saying that it's a movie about a simulation, but I realized. Yeah, okay, I'm tripping. So
Beat Saber and
wait, how does Beat Saber connect? If the second movie, because I feel like it's Birth of a Nation, but I'm probably tripping out.
You've got to really blend this one.
Or
Beat of a Nation.
Take Saber.
Beat Say Birth of a Nation.
Yep, there we go.
Oh.
Do you want to do
Killing
the
it.
other one? This one's like really obnoxious. We've got a bit of time.
Go for it,
Give it a
brother.
go.
I love
Go for
obnoxious.
Go for it.
Alrighty. A pill-addicted, spherical protagonist waka wakas on a quest to rid the world of 4 vengeful ghosts. Luckily, this former criminal has happened upon some fashion-forward technology that gifts him with the ability to greatly manipulate the size of his body.
Holy crap, I'm confused.
Wait.
Okay.
What's the movie part? Could you read the second part?
So the movie part, this former criminal has happened upon some fashion-forward technology that gifts him with the ability to greatly manipulate the size of his body.
Honey, I Shot the Kids.
Nope.
Ant-Man.
Can you get it? The combination right?
Pac-Man and the Wasp.
Nope.
Is it Pac-Man and the Wasp? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It's not the second one. It's the first movie.
Okay, so it is Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Ant-Man.
Do you want me to give it to you?
Sure.
Hold on.
Oh, wait,
hold on.
okay.
Pac-Man.
I said that.
Nope.
God damn it.
What if it's just Pac-Man?
Wait.
Marvel's
Ant-Man.
No.
Pac-Man starring Paul Rudd. Yeah.
Do you want me to give it to you, Elijah?
Ant Pack.
Nope.
What the fuck? Yeah, I'm
Imagine that.
stumped.
I'm stumped too.
Pac-Man.
What?
What the hell?
I know, I hate it as well.
What? Okay.
Oh, it was awful.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Who did this?
But yes, that is the movie game, and I don't know if we want to continue this into future episodes, but I will have some prepared if we do.
Yeah, that could be fun. It'd be a fun little icebreaker for any of us.
God damn.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
We are like 40 minutes into this recording, and we're finally getting onto the main topic of conversation.
All right, sweet.
Let's go. So we will be talking about video movie games.
Oh my
There we
God.
go. We got there, boys. Video game movies.
There we go.
Yes.
Oh, it's too late for me.
Okay, so starting with Pac-Man.
If you really fumble up something,
Yeah,
just I can delete it and then you can just say it again clean if you want. But
It's all good. We can keep that one in. I love that.
yeah, boy. Hey, mum.
video movie games. Let's go.
Yeah.
Video movie games. So that's why I watched Sonic again this week, or attempted to at least. I got through most of it.
That makes
but
sense.
I'd watched it a while ago, so that's why I could talk about it. Because we're talking about video game movies and why most of them are arse.
Yeah.
That's
It's
true.
a large topic. It's an epic
So-
topic.
Have you guys watched many video game movies? And if you have, what's the most memorable one that you've watched?
Oh God.
You go first, Elijah.
I've seen a fair few. All the basic ones, I guess. I've seen. I saw Mario Brothers at some point. I've seen some of the Uwe Boll ones, the really shitty ones. I saw like Far Cry for some reason. I've seen the Hitmans. I've seen Assassin's Creed. I think I saw Warcraft when it came out. And to be honest, the big problem is that none of them are really memorable unless it's because they're terrible.
Like Mortal Kombat Annihilation?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat Annihilation or
Hey.
Mario or what's it called? House of the Dead.
Mario is a cinematic classic.
In its own way, yes. Period. But it's just that all of the ones that are better than that are just good enough to be a movie that, like, is mediocre,
Exists.
and that's about the best
Yeah,
that they've
totally.
gotten.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't even seen Rampage, but I heard it's bad.
Yeah, I don't. It's weird because I'm always trying to dissect exactly what it is or why they are bad. What specifically about video game narratives or the way that studios handle them make every single one consistently arse?
I was talking to someone about this the other day because we got talking about The Shining, because as I may have mentioned in the first episode, I wasn't that big of a fan of the Shining movie. And so we got talking about
Yes.
horror as a genre and the different mediums that it's used in.
Right.
And I think the biggest issue with video game movies is immersion, which is why I'm shit terrified of the Last of Us TV series, because
Same.
with
Same.
video games, even games like The Last of Us, where it's essentially a movie that you occasionally get to control because there's so many cutscenes and stuff, you still have that control and you still get yourself immersed and involved, which is why like video games like Until Dawn and Five Nights at Freddy's work so well in the horror genre,
Yeah.
because you're part of that, and you get scared a lot more easily.
Because you're in control of the character, so no matter what happens, even if there isn't really interesting characterization, you're going to care about these people because you don't want to die and reset the level.
Yeah, you are that person at that
Yeah,
point.
totally.
And so when you're trying to go in the opposite direction and bring a video game into a very, I don't think stagnant's the right word, but a very like bystandery medium, you don't get involved with movies. You're just kind of sitting there and watching characters play it out.
It has a different set of rules.
Absolutely. So if you make a Mario movie where in the games Mario's only character trait is the fact that he's a plumber who likes Peach, it's not going to convert because there's nothing for the audience to attach to. There's nothing for them to be invested in.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is why I never understood why fighter games were so popular to make movies out of, because they are the worst at that.
Yeah, there's nothing to latch onto. You have to...
Yeah.
Because the perfect version of the story already exists in video game form.
Yeah, you're playing out the perfect story then.
Yeah. It's like, my argument with The Last of Us was always, when people would talk about what would be the ideal Last of Us movie, what would it look like? I would always say, it already exists. It's called The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Like, just look at the cutscenes. It's the ideal version of the story. Why fuck up a good thing? And for sure, they might make a decent version of the story if they adapt it well. But we already have a good version of the story.
That's what I'm saying. Today's games are so insanely impactful and powerful.
It's their own art form. They can already... They have great actors attached a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah,
the animation has gotten to the point where everyone can accurately convey emotion without looking like this really uncomfortable plastic figure.
Oh.
You understand what's going on. They have interesting, complex narratives, which are made even more interesting in the good cases because the world building is dynamic and you can explore these places on your own terms. And you're invested in these people for sure because they have like interesting character traits and such, but also, as I said before, just because you want to survive and you're going to care about...
PS4. Spider-Man PS4 is the best Spider-Man movie.
That's what I hear. Yeah,
so true.
For sure.
I forgot the guy's name because I can't really pronounce it. It's like Yuri
Lowenthal.
Yuri Lowenthal. Yeah, but he is the best Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
that was written so perfectly. My God,
it was absolutely, and cast so well as well.
Oh,
like Laura Bailey as Mary Jane Watson is so good.
Insanity.
A good Mary Jane Watson? Damn. Imagine that.
No way.
And another fun fact for you, the voice actor for Mary Jane is voicing Black Widow in the PS4 Avengers game.
Oh, really? No shit.
Well, that is another fun fact. You want to hear a fun fact I have about myself?
Sure. Go ahead, Danzig.
Sometimes when I'm watching porn,
I'm not cutting this out. Keep talking.
I was about to say, cut this out.
It's fine. Don't worry. Sometimes when I'm watching porn, I stop stroking my dick and I go, "That's a good camera angle," and I kind of think, "How will I implement that into a movie of my own?" That's good angle. You know, how would I?
When you say implement it to a movie of your own, are you saying you're trying to figure out how you would direct porn, or you're trying to figure out how you would turn that camera angle into a non-porn scenario?
Second one.
Okay. I don't.
Both.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I realized that today. I was stroking away, and I stopped and I was like, "Hang on a second, I got to go back." I rewinded about 5-10 seconds, and I had to pause it. Wow, that's a good shot.
Well, you'll have to send us the link.
It had nothing to do with the camera angle.
Yeah, your excuses.
Shout out Pornhub.
No, I mean sometimes. I guess that could happen. Everyone can come across, no matter which medium you're in, there's always opportunity to have craft somewhere. And people obviously will disagree with that a lot of the time because obviously porn has a completely different set of
rules.
Criteria. People aren't going to judge porn in the same way.
This is a different episode of the podcast.
Yeah, well, this can be a brief tangent, which, by the way, I'm absolutely not cutting out.
Oh, yeah.
But that can play into the larger idea of video games because every medium is judged in a different way. We judge movies as an objective observer watching someone tell us a story and present messages. And when you're adapting a video game, the one thing which you're going to have to interject, which wasn't previously there in some cases, not always the case, is a set of themes and ideas that plague the characters, observe their behavior, deconstruct what makes them do the thing as they do. Why are they the way they are? And video games don't really touch on that as much because it's focused on blowing shit up and living vicariously through people who can do awesome things that we ourselves can't. Movies, that can only go so far. And that's what people forget.
There are certain movies you just can't turn into a movie. There are certain games you can't turn into a movie. I put a Simon right there.
I guess on the flip side, what do we think are some of the cases? Well, first of all, what are some things that we think need to be done to treat a video game and put it into a movie? But also, what are the best video games to be adapted?
Well, it's
Oh,
a hard topic to talk about.
well, on the idea of good video game adaptations, I will turn your attention back to one Sonic the Hedgehog.
Eh.
Because it's what it's done, and I think this is kind of the way that you have to go with movie adaptations, which works with some games, but not as well with games like The Last of Us, is take the IP and take the characters and put them in a different context to what the game would. As much as Warcraft wasn't a brilliant movie, from what I've heard, that's what they did with that one.
Yeah.
They're not like showing a game of Warcraft. They're showing the characters from that universe in a
Mm.
different context than you would have had in the games.
Yeah. Using the
And
world.
that's what Sonic has done. As much as they didn't really use the world, they had Green Hill Zone in there for a little while, but most of it is your early 2000s cartoon character comes into the real world through a magic portal and has to go on a road trip to make their way back.
Love the Smurfs.
Yeah, the Smurfs. Yeah, I was just going to say, and it is an overdone trope, but it works for Sonic because of the type of character that he is. He doesn't have a lot that you can go off just if you're ripping straight from the game. So putting him in a different context, giving him a bit of different characterization, making him they had a bit of an advantage there because they had animated series. So, but they like kind of took that character from the animated series and inserted it into the video game character, put him in the real world in a different context, and went, here, have fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess I agree with the fact that adapting the worlds and utilizing the characters, that is what makes the most sense, and that's what's
Yeah.
important for a video game. The stories can't really be adapted too much because they rely on the structure of a video game, and the way they progress is through just running away from things and quick time events.
Yeah.
And that can only go so far in movies. But what people remember about video games and the thing that they'd want to replicate and capture is the atmosphere that you get when you play the game, the environments, the behavior of the characters. So I think that the best way to approach it often would be come up with a plot that works for something cinematic, even if it's entirely original, but use the atmosphere of the source
For
material
sure.
and take that where you will. Use the characters if you want, but if you have better characters, use those. If you want to use all of the regular iconography, do that, but if not, don't. So I think let's say they did a GTA movie. I probably you could pull from some plots for sure, but I think you're better off just making a really dope crime movie set in a busy city and just utilize the things that we understand stylistically and tonally.
Yeah, you can't get like 20 hours of gameplay in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With the storylines in GTA, you can't use those because they require so much traversing different areas in order to achieve the end. And the ending is never some crazy character arc. It's just we've completed this set of events and it has escalated.
Yeah, it's just there's more to come, brother.
I will say though, if you go with a GTA movie, I would go a slightly different route. I would take the world, take the atmosphere, all that sort of thing. Go with your kind of Fast and Furious style action movie, maybe with a bit more plot.
Yeah.
But then take the plot from one of the games. For me, being the only two of the games that I've actually played, GTA San Andreas or GTA 5, you could quite easily take those characters and to an extent take the plot. Because in San Andreas especially, there's a whole like story arc that CJ goes through.
Yeah,
That like
totally.
he actually
Get on
grows
the
as a
damn
character.
train,
Yeah.
CJ!
Yeah.
Ah shit, here we go again.
At 2 number 9s.
You could have a fairly decent use the Fast and Furious style action movie as a backdrop for a fairly deep character movie about I think CJ was like a father or something who
I think it was
divorced with the mother, and
maybe his mum died. I don't know.
there was some actually deep thing that was going on.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was
I don't know
dealing
what
with
it was
some
now.
past trauma. I remember tons of points in the game where he would just get PTSD. Yeah, so obviously the way they dealt with it back in those days was very basic, but the ideas they have, you could definitely adapt and make it into a serious story about the way that crime affects people's lifestyle, the way that people are just sinking into it because of their friends, they're joyriding around, and that lets them forget
Yeah.
about the shit that they've got themselves into.
Yeah, gang warfare,
totally.
things like
And
that.
then you have the benefit of having an absolute bomb opening sequence, which just shows all of these wide shots of LA or Compton or wherever it's set, and you get to play the San Andreas fucking theme.
Oh,
I
yeah.
swear, that would be the best opening. That theme is like so good and so iconic and so catchy. Just imagine it being played in the opening sequence of a movie, setting the tone. I would say that the ideal pitch would be like John Singleton, rest in peace, from like Boys in the Hood, Too
Ooh,
Fast, Too Furious.
yeah.
If he was,
right.
if he was to give some of that flair into an adaptation of San Andreas, and you can take some of that iconography, take the main theme, inspire some of the characters, you know, get someone who's kind of like Big Smoke, someone who's got similar elements to CJ,
Yeah.
and put them into a story which really encapsulates those themes. And it does what you were talking about, essentially. It goes into character development and focuses on that with the spectacle on the side.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think that'd be awesome. It just needs the craft behind it. I think the thing that a lot of these movies are missing is a really passionate voice behind it. They're just thrown together by a studio.
Yeah, I think that's another one of the big
Yeah,
issues.
like a lot of games these days have been in development for 10 years almost.
Development hell, yeah.
Yeah, legit.
Oh, yeah.
Like Cyberpunk, the first trailer for Cyberpunk came out early 2013. It's only getting
We're waiting
released.
for that for yonks. Yeah, I was. I swear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Kingdom Hearts 3 came out in 2018, I think it came out in 2019, and the last mainline Kingdom Hearts game had come out almost a decade prior.
Yeah.
wow.
Look at you guys know The Last Guardian?
Oh yeah, the bird
Yes,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, that was announced 2007, and it was released maybe 9 years later after being in this hiatus where it didn't appear for years on end.
Yeah.
And yeah, that happens with games. But actually, I guess the process with most video game movies is studios will understand that it's a major property and there are a lot of sales with the video games. It's a major franchise. So they go, if we make a movie about this, all of the fans of the video game are going to watch this and probably watch it multiple times because they love this world. So we need to make this ASAP. They find a young director who they can use relatively cheap. They can kind of boss him around because he's only made 2 movies.
Yep.
And he's obviously going to want to do it because he grew up playing these games and he's really passionate. So I guess Duncan Jones would, I suppose, be an example. He made 2 movies by the time that he'd made Warcraft. Moon, which is absolutely incredible, and Source Code, which is pretty good. Both of those are, I mean, they're not independent movies by any stretch, but they're relatively small movies. He has a name, but he's not Spielberg.
Yeah.
So the studio is able to bring him in and say, you've done some cool things. Why don't you tackle this $150 million movie? And he goes, geez, Warcraft, that's fucking amazing. I get to make this epic journey. And then he's given all of the things that the studio brings along. He's given the time constraints. He's given all of these mandates by the studio. I don't know what they are, how it runs,
Yeah.
but I know that it can be tough
The
working
visuals
on this
were
massive
so good
train.
in Warcraft.
They were. Visually, it was beautiful. It had a
That
lot of
was a
scale.
very good aspect, yeah.
It was an epic movie. It just didn't have the story to back it up.
Oh, yeah.
It felt rushed. It felt underwritten at points and overplanned at others. Like they planned a franchise before planning a single movie. And that's a big problem that they have. They plan ahead too much.
I think that's another one of the big issues with not just video game adaptations, but like adaptations in general,
Yeah.
is that a video game or a book or a theatre production comes out and it becomes really popular. And then the studio gets it because they see how popular it is. And because of how long movies take to produce, you've got this whole window of time where the studio's gone, if we don't get it out soon, we lose that popularity, we lose the zeitgeist of the internet culture at the moment. So we have to
Exactly.
get it out as soon as possible so that we can get it while it's hot.
For sure.
Whereas when you're doing an original story or anything that doesn't involve a direct adaptation, you've got the time, or even if you're adapting something a lot older, like a Breakfast Club or something like that, as that was just my first thought. Why would you readapt the Breakfast Club? But anyway, you've got the time. You've got the time to go. Oh, it came out 30 years ago, or it doesn't have a source material that is currently popular. I can spend the 3 to 4 years I need to properly produce this, so that it's a good movie that
Yeah,
I
for
can
sure.
adequately make to the standard that needs to be for this story.
Yeah, totally. I guess, yeah, the big part of it is making sure that it's timed correctly, and studios are going to really crunch down on that.
Yeah.
I think Resident Evil did one of the best video game movies. I know that's gonna piss a lot of people off because it wasn't anything like the game. They took a premise and they basically just did what they want to it. They
Yeah.
took like the aspects of it and then just made around that. It was great. I mean, the second one's amazing. Oh, beautiful.
We'll need to. That could be its whole own episode, I reckon.
Yeah,
Because I
totally,
haven't
okay.
seen. I mean, I think I saw the first one a couple of years ago, but
Decent. Very,
catching up on
very
those.
thriller-ish, like suspenseful.
But the good thing about them is you don't view them as this is an adaptation of a video game. You view
No.
this as it's an early 2000s action movie.
Yeah,
And
totally.
what's great about that is that regardless of whether some people might think of it poorly for that reason, it's still its own movie. It still has a voice, even if that voice is Paul W.S. Anderson. And I think that's really important. I think people need to have a passion for the movie itself, not just the video game, but understanding how it could work cinematically and turning it into something that fits into a genre, has its own themes,
Definitely, yeah.
just in of itself.
It needs to stand on its own and be a valid adaptation.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't really care too much if that means it veers away from the source material, because if I want something close to the source material, I'll play the fucking game.
Oh yeah,
I just
totally.
I want a good story. I want that for everything, not just video game movies. Every movie,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, we want it to be as best it can be. And what you were saying before about the way that they're developed and about them being rushed, movies that are original, the driving force of their production is the story. So if it's an original IP, it gets funded because it has a good message, it has a good cast, it's got a good director behind it.
It's got the care and the passion that is needed for a good production.
Yeah, even if there are some corporate aspects behind it, ultimately it's got to do with the story, not just this movie is a sequel to this, so we will do it. What does it
Yeah.
look like? How is it written? We do not really care.
That's actually something I'd like to talk about in a future episode is extended universes and movie universes and things like that, and the fact that studios are hell bent on trying to make a new MCU instead of just
Yeah.
making a good movie.
I don't like that. I just want good movies the
Yeah.
whole way. If I want long, winding stories, I'm gonna watch TV shows. I watch movies to have a contained story. Sure, it's nice if it fits into an epic saga, but even if it does, I just want craft. I want something that I can dig into and that I can discuss and that I can think about, that I can get swept away in. Harry Potter, I think, is a blend of all of those things, but a lot of these franchises, they don't exist as a movie. They only exist as the whole,
As a
which
franchise,
takes
yeah.
away from the thing at the center. Yeah, the movie exists so that the next movie can exist, and that movie exists so the crossover can exist.
I'll be
There's no point.
completely honest. As beautiful movies as they are, and as good as the movies are on their own, Lord of the Rings is that. Because it's
Ooh.
an adaptation of a series, you can't watch Fellowship of the Ring without watching The Two Towers and Return of the King. You can,
Yeah.
however, watch like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone without watching any of the others.
That's true. I mean, I always give it a pass on on the Lord of the Rings. One, because they are so incredibly well made. in every aspect, and
Oh yeah,
they're
like I'm
just
not shitting on the series by a long shot, but just
yeah,
in
no.
my
But I understand what you're saying in that you have to watch them all as one thing. But the reason it doesn't bother me is because it is its own trilogy, and if you view that trilogy as a cohesive, singular thing, it has a through line as its own individual story,
yeah.
which maybe some people might think that I'm being hypocritical by saying that, but it's like if the story has a particular goal, you can expand that goal over multiple movies. That doesn't really bother me. It's just that it
The Hobbit.
it needs it needs to be telling a story. Marvel movies, they don't exist to meet a specific goal. They exist because the characters are cool. It's
Yeah.
not like in the first movie they begin setting up all of these threads which are then continued. In Lord of the Rings 1, they set up the finale. They set up, this is the goal. We're sending the ring to Mordor. These are the characters. These are the events. These are the
Yeah.
things that will later be a Deus Ex Machina. And then it's continued. You could watch all three of the movies and someone could tell you that it's actually this experimental thing which has never been done before, and they'd believe you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'd be looking for. Just tell the story well. Whatever story it is, tell it with integrity, tell it with depth. And that, I think it can work with everything. I think you absolutely can make a good video game movie because you can make a good movie out of anything. You just need the right people and a
Yeah.
passion for it.
And the right story.
Yeah, and hopefully for a studio not to crawl up your ass. But
Comic book
Yeah.
TV shows, that's where they're at. That's where it's
Yeah.
at. That's where the money is.
Comic book shows and movies, as much as Elijah, you're not really a fan of the MCU, they are a
Shoot me
perfect
later.
example of what a good adaptation can be.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man now. He is that character because they adapted his
100%.
story so well to the big screen from all of the 60 years of comics. Comic fans correct me in the comments for how long that time period is, but I said 60, so screw you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely know who the character is, and he always just lives and breathes that persona that he has. I think
Yeah.
that's why it works, is because in the MCU, even though, yeah, I have mentioned before that I'm a bit cynical about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I can't really find too many faults in regards to the actors and the way they portray the characters.
Yeah, it's
I
very
could nitpick dialogue and stuff, but in the way they behave, we know who they are 100% of the time.
because of how many stories the comics have. They've opted for a more character focused story. As much as the Infinity War saga and Thanos is the big overarching story, the movies themselves are so much more focused on the characters and building them up rather than trying to tell this story from one of the many comic books that has been written about them.
Yeah, and those are the elements that work best in the movie.
Yeah, which kind of goes back to the first point about video game movies and how you just take the characters and take the aspects of the characters or the world and do something original with it.
Yeah, you need to adapt it. Just take the material that you think could apply cinematically and expand upon that. I reckon that a lot of the time, the best way to approach it is just get yourself the stimulus, which could be the world that it set up, the basic premise, the characters, whatever it is, and take that and then leave everything else. Just say to
Yeah.
yourself, I'm writing a movie. Nothing else. Forget about the fact that you're adapting a video game. Just try and write a decent
You're
movie.
writing a movie, first and foremost, yeah.
Yeah. And then you think of everything that you normally need in a movie. All right, traditionally in a movie, I need a certain amount of themes. I need certain things to be met. I need certain character plot points. Make sure that the structure is intact. Just treat it as a movie. Don't treat it as
Yeah.
anything else. And a lot of the times, these larger video game movies are probably not treated like movies in the same way that Good Will Hunting would have been when it was produced.
Interesting example.
Yeah, my brain's running very slowly right now. So,
No,
I
I
reckon
get what
that
you mean though.
It'd be very interesting if studios were able to give up rights to video games for a cheaper price, and we were to see what video games look like on a mid-range budget.
I would pay good money to see an indie version of like Until Dawn.
Imagine.
Yeah, totally. That'd be insane.
Yeah. And even though that's a game which
Wendigo.
is very cinematic on its own,
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's no reason you wouldn't be able to adapt certain elements of it because it'd just be the same as remaking an old movie. You know, maybe
Yeah.
you have a different spin on it. Maybe there's something else you want to add that was done incorrectly in your eye. But I guess there's this thing where when movies are too cheap, then the creators aren't able to show their full vision. They can't afford rights to the music, they can't pay for the dollies, they can't afford all of the greatest actors, so on and so forth.
Our problem.
Yeah, exactly. And then when a movie is too big, it gets bogged down by all of the things they need. If you make a $150 million movie, you have to make sure you take every precaution to make sure it gets a shitload of money. And to do that, you have to include all of these things which are kind of pandering to demographics. Make sure that it does well in China.
Actor cameos.
Yeah, cameos. Make sure that you have all of these actors that you might not want in your movie, but they're bankable. Make sure that it has a structure which isn't abrasive. Don't have any controversial themes. So maybe you wanted to tell a really artsy story, but that's just, you can't really do that on a big budget. Where the best movies come from, in my opinion, is the middle ground. Movies that are between like $10 to $45 million, where it's enough money that the directors are able to tell their full vision, unless it's a CGI sci-fi movie, but it's not enough money for the studio to rely on that movie for their entire year salary. They're going to give them a certain amount of creative freedom. That's where you get movies like Children of Men, Gravity, Birdman.
Yeah, you don't want to make an April or December blockbuster movie, but you don't want to make like a Sundance Film Festival third place ribbon.
Yeah, you're not making The Witch, but you're also not making fucking, Spider-Man.
Blair Witch.
Yeah, I'm not talking Paranormal Activity, but I just want to see more movies that are video game adaptations in the middle ground, purely because I feel like a lot of directors who would shy away from the larger projects because they want that creative control, which is absolutely necessary if you're someone with a strong vision, it would attract those directors. And we'd find all of these voices that we know already suddenly being comfortable with adapting video games they've grown up with. Young directors like Ari Aster, who made Hereditary and Midsommar.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he loves video games, but he doesn't want to touch them because he knows the studio's just going to rip him a new one. What would it be like if he added the finesse that he shows in those movies into an adaptation of Silent Hill?
Yeah, oh, bro. I want a good Silent Hill movie.
Apparently the one that they released in 2006, I believe, apparently was quite good. And I actually heard that the director of that movie was so insanely courageous and passionate about the project, and he loved the video game to death, and he did his absolute darndest to make sure that it was good. So I haven't seen the movie, but based on what I've heard, I have a lot of respect for what they're doing.
No, I haven't either, yeah.
The second one is supposedly quite a different story. But I just want to see more movies that show that passion, where the director genuinely wants to make it, and the studio behind them says, well, you probably know what to do because you're a director who's shown a lot of promise and you like this material. So kind of sort of do what you want.
So our problem is with the studio system.
I think that that's the case. It wouldn't always be. It can be that the directors maybe aren't as experienced, so they crumble under the pressure of going from a $10 million budget to a $100 million budget. It could be that.
Yeah.
It could, as you said, it could be the way that they're rushed. Maybe they don't have as much creative control over the scripts because in a larger movie, each person sort of has to stick to their own lane. If you're the cinematographer, you're just the cinematographer. If you're the director, then you sort of leave other people to do their own thing and you consult them a bit. I mean, I presume that's how it is.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the areas where I think it lies. And I actually remember hearing that the director of Kong Skull Island and Kings of Summer, which are both movies that I think are okay, he wanted to do a Metal Gear Solid movie.
Ooh.
And at first I thought, yeah, okay, everyone wants to do an adaptation of everything, whatever. He's the guy who directed Skull Island, sure, whatever. But hearing him in interviews, I realized, holy shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. First thing was that he was discussing every single facet of the game like it was his thumbprint. He knew the entire game, or the entire franchise, back to front, and he was just gushing about it. And I could tell that he was focused on the themes and the characters, because he would always say in the interviews, yeah, the action sequences are great and everything, and I love the CQC, but what's really interesting is the tone, the weirdness, the characters. So I could tell he knew what elements are important to adapt to the screen.
Yeah.
I thought, shit, I want to see this movie now. But I guess because he has this really particular, very strange vision for the movie, the studios are kind of putting him through development hell. I don't even know where they're at right now. There was some concept art released, which was really interesting, but I think they've been stuck in this weird limbo for a couple of years now. I don't know if it'll ever come out.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes.
Yeah, because if people have really distinctive visions that are kind of unusual, artsy, if you will, then the studio is going to say, well, this is a massive budget. We don't want to deal with that.
There are some interesting stories to be told, to say the least, but
Definitely.
if the studios won't give them the power, then we got to deal with our Mortal Kombats and Super Marios before we can get our Sonics and Resident Evils.
I reckon yeah, that's right, people. I'm still here. There's a short indie game called Celeste on the Nintendo Switch. It's about a girl climbing.
Yes.
Oh no, it's about a girl climbing a mountain, but really she's like climbing over depression. Like she's just it's hard to explain, but
It's wild.
that would be a good adaptation. I reckon it'd be just fun if you could do some things with it. Yeah, that's really awesome. BioShock's another one I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, BioShock would be a good one. My big one, and they kind of adapted it because Japan will adapt anything into an anime, is Persona 5 or the Persona series in general. You can have your like super deep themes about identity and self-realization and things like that, while also having this really like surface level story of just a couple of cool dudes in masks and funny costumes beating the shit out of people.
Gears of War, I would love to see that.
Bruh.
With Dave Bautista starring as Marcus.
If you did a Gears of
my
War movie,
goodness.
you have to get Dave Bautista and Laura Bailey to still be in it. Because
Oh,
Laura
so
Bailey
true.
in that game is beautiful.
No, yeah, I've been waiting for a God of War movie for years, ever since like the second
It's
one.
got such an interesting world.
Oh hell yeah!
Who would you have play Kratos?
Ooh,
Now,
shit. John David Washington. I don't know.
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews.
Bro. As much as that was a joke.
Jake Gyllenhaal. Actually, Jake
Joe
Gyllenhaal would be
Manganiello.
interesting if he grew.
If he grew muscles, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really hard one for me because
Who's like a buff boy?
I've spent
The
my
Big Show,
life.
Danzig.
I've spent my life with Kratos, like legit.
Yeah.
But I do not know who would be a good choice. Because I just know Kratos is Kratos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will leave that question with you, and I'll leave it with the fans, and we will wrap up today's episode with that cliffhanger.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I will say that if I had to choose someone, I always thought of John Bernthal,
Oh,
Punisher, and like how he looks in Wolf of Wall Street with his muscles. I just like his voice. He's got a good voice.
yeah. Oh god, imagine him with that massive beard and the makeup.
Yeah, I know. Like I've always thought about him. You know.
He's got that blood-curdling scream.
Oh yeah, totally too.
Yeah.
Like I reckon he's a decent shout.
Yeah.
I reckon. Yeah.
Or Digimon
But
Honshu.
yes, leave your answers for who you think would play Kratos down in the comments below, and
Yeah.
we'll wrap that up for today. Go check us out on Twitter at vibe_or_die. I got that right, hopefully. If not, it'll be in the description down below.
Yeah, it'll be in the description.
Along with all of our Letterboxd accounts. And I'll also throw in my personal YouTube channel and Andrew's personal YouTube channel, who we still haven't had on the show, but he needs to get on. He'll probably be on next episode.
If you just watch Andrew's new videos, you'll realise what an amazing human being he is.
Oh,
The
yeah,
purest
for sure.
soul.
He legit is.
But
like, I love him to death.
We will hopefully have him on an episode soon. And episodes will be coming out every second Wednesday, so look forward to seeing our ugly voices in another. I went to say ugly faces, but you don't see our faces, so look forward to hearing our ugly voices in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay tuned,
Before we go, can we get a quick shout out to Christina Applegate? Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta eat the lettuces.
Christina Applegate.
Yeah. I'm in the rap game, man. You want to sign? Excellent. Thank you all.
Peace out.
I've enjoyed these conversations. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, there they go. Yeah.
They've been good fun.
Good stuff. Catch you later,
We'll see
y'all.
you guys in the next video.
Hell yeah.
Peace.
And that will be that.
Oh.